Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into a story that's, well, really fascinating, but also a bit of a warning. We're talking Kodak, the company that basically changed photography forever, but it's also become this huge lesson in needing to adapt, or else. And for this deep dive, we're drawing on insights from sources like Easy Digest, The Rise and Fall of Kodak. It really maps out the whole story. Our goal here is to unpack how this giant of industry actually invented the future it then failed to grab onto. It's quite the tale. Shows how even pioneers can, well, get in their own way. Loads of lessons for anyone trying to navigate change today. Okay, let's unpack this. What's really striking is that Kodak's start, their original vision, was kind of just as disruptive back then as digital was later on.
Oh, absolutely. What's fascinating here is just how big a deal their early stuff was. Before George Eastman founded Kodak in, 1888, photography was complex. Bulky equipment, chemicals, very niche.
Right, not for your average person.
Exactly. Eastman's mission was clear. Make photography easy, accessible, for everyone.
And they did it. That first Kodak camera, the boxy one, preloaded with film.
And that slogan, brilliant. You press the button, we do the rest.
Perfect. It just cut through all the complexity, made it inviting.
Yeah, and the flexible roll film they invented, that was the real key. That's what made portable cameras possible. Led straight to the Brownie camera in 1900.
The Brownie. Huge.
Massive impact. So by the mid-20th century, Kodak wasn't just a company, it was photography for most people.
You see the numbers, right? Like 80–90% market share.
Incredible dominance. Film, cameras, the works. It genuinely took photography from being this specialized skill to something millions did every day.
Yeah.
Taking snapshots, that idea. Pretty much Kodak.
And this massive success, this dominance, it wasn't just luck. They had this really smart business model powering their golden era.
Absolutely. It's the classic razor and blades model, right?
Sell the cameras cheap.
Yeah, exactly. Get the cameras into people's hands affordably. Then you make the real money on the film and the processing over and over again.
Genius, really. Simple and incredibly profitable.
And it worked like a charm. Their stuff became totally tied to capturing memories.
Yeah, the whole Kodak moment thing, that phrase became universal.
It really did. They weren't just selling products. They were embedded in how people remember their lives. A cultural force.
Okay, but this is where the story takes that really ironic twist. It's kind of the heart of the whole thing, the future that would eventually undo them. Turns out it was born right inside Kodak.
Right. And this really brings up a huge question for any business, doesn't it? How do you deal with something that disrupts your core business, especially if you created it?
So what's the fact here? They actually invented it.
It's pretty mind-blowing. A Kodak engineer, Steve Sasson, invented the first working digital camera back in 1975.
75. That's ages before digital took off.
Exactly. They weren't caught off guard by some external thing. They literally held the future in their hands.
So if they had it, what stopped them? Why didn't they run with it? What was the thinking or the lack of it?
Ah, well, that's the paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
The leadership, they looked at this digital thing and they saw something that would destroy their film business.
Cannibalize it, yeah.
Right. Film was making them so much money. It was this massive, reliable profit engine. Digital looked like a direct threat to that.
So fear, basically. Fear of disrupting themselves.
Pretty much. It's the classic innovator's dilemma. You've got this hugely successful thing right now, and you're hesitant to really back this new thing, even if it's your own invention, because it might kill your current golden goose. Short-term thinking won out. They were blinded by their own success.
And that hesitation, that reluctance, it proved fatal, didn't it? Because others weren't hesitating.
Not at all. While Kodak was sort of dipping his toes in, cautiously, through the 90s and early 2000s, digital tech was just exploding, getting better, cheaper, faster.
And competitors jumped in.
Oh, yeah. Companies like Sony, Canon, Nikon, they went all in on digital. They saw where things were heading, invested heavily.
But Kodak, still focused on film, mostly.
They clung to it. They kept thinking film would last longer, or that digital was just a niche. They badly underestimated how fast consumers would switch.
It sounds like more than just underestimating, like actual resistance, bad decisions.
There were definitely some poor strategic choices made, trying to somehow mesh digital with their old film model, which just didn't quite work. They weren't agile enough.
And then came the next wave.
Right. Smartphones. Suddenly, everyone had a pretty decent camera in their pocket.
Making standalone cameras, even digital ones, less essential for everyday snaps.
Exactly. It just further eroded Kodak's position. Sales kept falling. Attempts to reinvent the company didn't really take hold.
Until the inevitable happened.
Yeah. Chapter 11, bankruptcy in 2012.
Hmm.
A formal restructuring because they just couldn't sustain the debt anymore.
Such a fall from grace for a company that basically defined photography for a century.
It really was.
Yeah.
So the aftermath. Well, connecting this to the bigger picture, Kodak's story is like a textbook case, isn't it?
Mm.
Market changes, the need to disrupt yourself.
So what happened during the bankruptcy? What did they have to do?
They had to sell off a lot.
Yeah.
Their valuable digital imaging patents, remember, they invented a lot of this stuff gone. They got out of cameras, film, printers for consumers,
Hmm.
basically exited the businesses they were famous for. They tried to refocus on things like commercial printing technology,
Mm.
a much smaller, different company.
And the human cost, too, right? Rochester, New York, their hometown.
Oh, huge impact. Massive job losses over the years. The city's identity was so tied to Kodak. It wasn't just a corporate failure, it was a community blow.
So when we boil it all down, the big lesson is not just innovate, is it?
No, because they did innovate. They invented the digital camera. The lesson is more about having the courage to embrace that innovation, even when it threatens your existing success.
Disrupt yourself before someone else does.
Exactly that. It's about adaptability, sure, but also about strategic foresight and, frankly, guts, to make the hard choices about the future, even if it means sacrificing some short-term comfort.
It really hammers home that adaptability isn't just, a nice to have, it's survival. Especially now, with tech changing so fast.
Absolutely key. Consumer behavior shifts on a dime sometimes. You can't afford to rest on your laurels.
What a journey.
Mhm.
Pioneer, giant, cautionary tale, all in one company. The need to adapt, to see what's coming, it's just crystal clear from their story. So, something to think about as we wrap up. Thinking about Kodak. What other industries, or maybe even big tech players out there, feel completely dominant right now, but might be facing their own kind of digital camera moment, that disruptive force they might not be fully embracing, or maybe even closer to home? How can you use these lessons from Kodak, about innovation, about not getting stuck in past success? How can you apply that to whatever you're pursuing to make sure you're always looking ahead, not just holding on to what worked before? Lots to chew on there.